It's encouraging that there is some concrete proof that artificial intelligence can actually increase business profits. I've heard several complaints about AI for a long time, particularly the fact that the only firm actually profiting from the theme is Nvidia, which manufactures the chips AI uses. Although it's a fantastic method for Nvidia to profit, there isn't much proof that anyone else is getting anything from it, at least in the case of the massive hyperscalers like the Metas, OpenAIs, and Alphabets that are investing tens of billions of dollars to become the best chatbot. I believe there is some truth to that. The chatbots may view you as the equivalent of Google, meaning that everything else is Bing if you can become the top dog. This would also imply that the losers wasted a great deal of money on all the AI expenditures. In essence, there is an arms race in AI. You basically only want to own the arms dealers in an arms race. But at last, there are a few businesses that I have actually been able to kick the tires and say, you know what? They're using AI to make money. They are developing patterns of items and shipping locations that can be properly gamed. For example, in the case of FedEx, and FedEx informed you yesterday night that it had saved a significant amount of money as a result of that. Because of the pattern recognition, they're posting better numbers, particularly on cost. Their workplaces are becoming much more productive thanks to AI by doing this. You can increase your revenue significantly without increasing your volume. Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, reminded me this morning that the iPhone 17 is packed with artificial intelligence, including Center Stage. Oh my goodness! This fantastic new function for selfies makes sure that everyone is included in the photo. They remain connected. My oldest daughter's arms are incredibly lengthy. She is always the designated selfie taker. Unless people are cut out of her selfies, then mine it's like you get half people in them, so we call her CC Long Arms. That is worth a significant investment to be able to do that automatically with software. According to Tim, there is a lot of interest in it. We both enjoy snapping selfies. This brand new camera is explosive. Salesforce will showcase real-world AI use cases at its Dreamforce conference next month, many of which have increased sales and profits for their organizations. I'm really excited to see it. Boy, Mark Benioff stated, the agentic portfolio, basically bots that interact with humans, is growing by leaps and bounds. Salesforce's oldest businesses are no longer growing as they once did. According to the analyst's quick narrative, I don't see that occurring now. However, I would want to see some faster development from this specific agentic portfolio. Yes, but I've been considering this, and I told Jeff Marks, my travel partner, that perhaps we don't even need to see Menix. Growth accelerated given the stock's sharp drop. Salesforce is down 26% this year. For example, we might be getting close to the point where, if they have lost anything at all from traditional cloud software, the expansion of the Agentics company will soon compensate for it. Speaking of Agentics, CrowdStrike's cybersecurity division is unquestionably dominating the market because it is impossible to guarantee that the AI agents won't be compromised. The AI agents are being fiercely resisted by the North Koreans. They even have a strategy that involves looking for and landing employment with remote hiring organizations. One was employed. Yes, exactly. One of these North Korean bots was employed, and because of his exceptional performance, his boss wanted to retain him. Unfortunately, he was a spy. AI is reportedly performing admirably in the banking and brokerage industry. I'm not sure. The efficiency figures they release on a quarterly basis simply do not show it yet. The same is true for the businesses that assist them, particularly the attorneys and accountants. They are private organizations. It is quite difficult to measure. I am aware that there are AI systems that automate and digitize bank employees' tasks, but banks don't appear willing to identify whose jobs are being eliminated. However, I believe the error aspect is the reason these professions are hesitant to deploy AI too much. You know, despite everything we've discussed over the past few years, the chatbots continue to make far too many mistakes. And if you're a lawyer or accountant, you really can't afford to make a mistake like that. It is foolish to rely on them now before they are capable of understanding. However, it won't last long because the next generation of weapons dealer Nvidia products have capabilities that, in my opinion, will surpass those of a rational person. Finally, it will happen. You will have more faith in the machine than in a human. The errors make it difficult to trust these bots for anything significant as long as there is no logic. However, all will change when the next generation of processors is released next year. It will arrive. Therefore, exercise patience, as it will soon arrive. You don't believe the hoopla at all. If Nvidia didn't believe that Intel was a reliable firm, why would they support it? Yes, excellent question. Therefore, it is clear that there is a lot of political pressure on different market segments at the moment. That must be a contributing aspect, in my opinion. However, Nvidia does not consider it a minor inconvenience. They therefore granted Intel about $5 billion. They have about $67 billion left in cash. That isn't a huge deal, in my opinion. They currently offer an ARM core in their Grace line of products. They are now providing an Intel core with that. In order to allow Intel to include the graphics into their own laptop processor, they will then, sort of lend Intel their graphics capabilities. Therefore, the $5 billion is not a huge deal to us. In terms of processors, AMD still outperforms Intel, and having a better graphics chip doesn't always benefit the core processor. Additionally, Intel may wind up spending between $500 million and $1 billion, or perhaps as much as $2 billion on the AI product line. However, that's years away. Additionally, Intel is only worth about $53 billion, so it is again insufficient to make a difference. More significantly, we believe that this keeps Intel in this never-endingly profitable foundry industry, which they ought to leave. And we think that unlocks a $1 to $2 in earnings power if they did break out of that, i.e. creating chips for other companies. We love that. However, it appears that this will only continue their never-ending cycle of attempting to produce chips for other businesses. So, you don't think that this cooperation with Nvidia will prevent Intel from giving up the foundry business at this time? Could that still be a route down the road, or does that rule them out? And is it the only way to return to a neutral position on Intel, at the very least? Yes, excellent question. Of course, I return to neutral if the stock declines. That's the top priority. Second, there are two things I would like to clarify. Therefore, we firmly believe that Intel should continue to manufacture its own chips in its own foundry. Over the past 2 to 3 years, they have made significant progress in that area. However, this involves producing chips for other businesses, particularly for cutting. They've been attempting this for 10 or 20 years. Compared to 5, 10, or 15 years ago, they are no closer now. They still lag Taiwan Semi by 2 to 3 years. This is costing them billions of dollars. They might be able to achieve it. Yes, we have also described that. To begin with, you should probably recruit 2 or 3 Michael Jordans from Taiwan Semi to come and educate you the ins and outs of the foundry industry. That is not what Intel has done. The company is run by someone who is not a foundry. Furthermore, the foundry industry is nearly the opposite of what made Intel great. For example, the fact that Intel produced its own chips was what made them so great. Intel only has one processor. Making your own version of someone else's recipe is not the answer. You just need to turn the business around from the ground up, and we don't think that's their strong suit. If this keeps them in business,